I volunteer because I love doing it.
Carrie.
Spirit.
A willing volunteer.
You have to want to do it.
You have to do something that's important to you, makes you feel good.
Oh, it's great. It just helps a lot of different areas in this town.
And Jasper is really a volunteer town, I would say.
The willingness to volunteer, the willingness to participate.
I love my community. I like being here.
It's fun to meet interesting people.
Pretty well, the whole system's run by volunteers.
You can do a lot of good.
That's happened here. It happened in a lot of our community affairs.
And I felt good doing it.
It's very personally gratifying and a lot of fun.
We have a lot of volunteers everywhere.
If it was just one person working alone, it would have been probably different, but there were always others.
They answer a need, maybe before they're even asked.
A number of people who thought that seniors would be interested in learning more about technology and how to use the internet and be able to contact relatives around the world. See people realize that these are not, especially the seniors in our town, this is not something that it's for young people, it's for everyone, and it opens up a whole world. It's probably the most rewarding experience of all the volunteer work I do.
Yeah, just to listen, basically. It helps out the community, and it makes me see the community better.
Well, this volunteering in the thrift shop is taking recycling to its best. It helps the people who bring it, it helps the people who buy it, and then it helps the church. I think mostly because it's needed. And so this is my way of donating my time, just because I want to.
Well, volunteerism has kind of been, I think, goes hand in hand with people in the community. To be a good volunteer, you have to really understand your community. You have to kind of have some vision of yourself of what you personally want to get out of being a volunteer. But if you don't have a volunteer structure and a volunteer base of people who will get out and get things done, then your community suffers. I go out to do it because I think we have a great community here. There's a tremendous amount of talented people in this community, and when that talent gets researched and gets utilized, it just makes this a better place.
The AIDS Walk and the Redfin Swimathon. I volunteer because I think it's fun. Get sponsors and for teams and the ski team or the swim team or AIDS Walk because it helps out the community.
We depend greatly on our volunteers for every aspect of our programming and direction. And they're very enthusiastic, and they bring a lot of different skills to their volunteerism.
So I initially volunteered 4 years ago because I was really interested in working in the field. So I used the opportunity for job experience, but the issue drew me to the organization, the importance of HIV/AIDS, and making sure the community was aware. And I continue to volunteer because I just love the people who are part of the organization.
I think it's something that people shouldn't be afraid of. It's something we should feel comfortable talking about and educating ourselves and our kids about. That's why I got involved in AIDS Jasper.
Heart and soul. Jasper depends on volunteers to make the businesses and to make things go between the folk festival, between Meals on Wheels, between anything that needs help, volunteers do it. Because I can and I have time to do it, and I love to be able to help other people in situations where they're not as lucky.
There's no funding for programs like this. Without volunteers, they wouldn't happen. You're volunteering your time. You're not in it for any personal gain. The
community's been really good to me. I grew up in Calgary, and throughout my youth I had people that I remember, you know, through hockey and soccer and football, and they were all volunteers, and I always look back at them sort of as role models, and I think, you know, geez, now I'm sort of doing what they did, and I'm hoping that the kids appreciate it like I did. Maybe, you know, hopefully they appreciate that now, but it makes the community stronger. All the coaches, all the executive, everybody involved in the tournaments and the road trips, and well, every aspect is done by volunteers. Most of them are parents, but in some cases they aren't parents. They're just people that are giving back to the community. The kids in this town are very active because of volunteers. We've got a lot of opportunities.
Being involved with it, one way to get involved with it is to be a volunteer. I can't really tell you, I just like doing it. It's a feeling of accomplishment because it's important. It won't get done if we don't have volunteers in a lot of cases.
We had a lot more volunteers this year than ever. We've been a base of maybe 8 to 10 volunteers all these years. And so we've put on a show for 28,000 people, these 8 to 10 volunteers. This year we put out a call in the paper, and the response was just overwhelming. We have a lot of talented people in this town, a lot of very wonderful individuals that have special gifts.
It feels good to help people and to know that you're actually doing something for your community.
You have to try hard, like just because if you volunteer, that doesn't mean that you're just doing it so that you can do something. It means that you have to work hard, and you have to make sure that you do a good job of what you're doing.
You have to want to do it, and you really have to be good about what you do. You have to be a people person.
I volunteer because it's just good to know that you're doing something good for people, and that it's a fun way to take up time, and you get to spend time with lots of other friends that volunteer, and you know that they're going to be good friends because they help other people.
Working with young people, and I like working with older people because they've got so much history, like these two. Right, Mary?
Yeah. I've always loved this town. It's such a good place to live. I was glad to do something, my part of it, and for canvassing, you meet just so many people that you wouldn't meet otherwise.
It's a great feeling, you know you've done something for people. And I love people. I think everybody should volunteer.
I know why I volunteer. I volunteer because I get out of it more than what I put into it. If you care about your community, you care about people, that's a great volunteer. You meet people everywhere, and it really connects you, and I think that connectedness makes for a better community. At least get your feet wet. Once you come on board, it's contagious.
It was a project initiated by the Friends of Jasper, but the volunteers came from all over the community. Entire businesses volunteered their staff for afternoons. People that come here are just thrilled with what so many volunteer hours have put together. I think there were over 2,000 trees that were planted. Lots of people from all walks of life. It was a very social gathering more than anything else when you consider it. But then we were doing something constructive at the same time. I just like to be happy in the place where I live, and if I can give back to it by volunteering, that's a great way of showing my appreciation.
Oh boy. It gives me lots of satisfaction, and at the same time I am glad that I can give something back to community and to my country. Everybody does whatever they can.
I think everybody has a specialty, you know. Some volunteer for the hospital, some for the museum, some for the churches.
Whenever I ask somebody in Jasper to volunteer for something, they are really eager to do it, and they are volunteering, because Jasper is really a volunteer town.
Volunteers in Jasper, they are generous people, generous with their time, and generous with their contribution of money.
We would probably not have the museum yet if we would not have the volunteering. Quite often people say, oh, we have to do this one, but it costs money. And I said, just a moment, why we cannot use volunteers? So where do you get the volunteers? And I am able to always get the volunteers.
Volunteering always does something for the person that volunteers, or they wouldn't be in it. And whenever I volunteer for something, it's because I want to see the project go ahead. And I've lived here a long time, so I know that Jasper goes ahead in many areas because of the volunteers. Without the historical societies, hours and hours of work and hours that they're still putting in, we wouldn't have our museum and archives. Our activity center was part of a very large move of people working very hard to see that through. The church hours of volunteers in all of the churches, people that put their time in there. Volunteer spirit in Jasper is absolutely wonderful. It's like a family experience, because you know someone's always there, and they will be behind you in whatever project.
Strawberry blonde and the band laid on. He'd lie across the floor with the girl he adored, and the band laid on. And his brain was so loaded it nearly exploded. Poor girl would shake with alarm, but he married the girl with the strawberry girl, and the band played on.
It really helps the people, and they help one another, and they come in and visit the people that's here in the hospital.
With the girl he adored, and the band played on.
I volunteer to help the hospital, and I love doing it.
Just give whatever you can from your heart. When I came in this country, this community really welcomed me, and I kind of felt I owe so much to the community. Whenever you need them, there seems to be there to help you, help others. I don't think there is a way I can express the gratitude that I get of helping people in my own little way.
They recognize a need, and it's a willingness to do things for people or to get things done. There's so much done for the seniors, and it's needed to be done. You should be able to put yourself in their shoes and just think how hard it is for someone to ask for every need you have, especially if they've been independent all their life. It helps to have patience and a sense of humor, too. Well, it helps to have time, but it's not a prerequisite, because you give a busy person something to do and they get it done. I don't really volunteer. I just do things for my friends. And then maybe a friend of a friend, and then I get that as person as a friend, too. So you see, there's benefits all the way around. Well, the volunteering makes people happy without even realizing what's doing it. It makes a good community.
That was one of the first things that really struck me about the town, is the way everybody pulls together, and they don't look upon it so much as volunteering, it's just that they want to help each other. And that really started a lot of activity here, because right over here where the arena is now is where our skating rink was. And we got Mighty Mites and the midgets, little tiny kids played, and then in the summer we organized ball, and all of us got very, very involved in that. We were always taught to help our neighbors and help our fellow man. So, and I think that's part of a small town. The belief in themselves, they have the ability, they think themselves, well, we can do this, you know, somehow we'll find out. And so that's what makes it work. I know I'd probably disappoint everybody if I don't bring up my steam engine, but I must bring that up. That probably was the first time I really saw how a town could get behind people with a dream, and that's what happened. And when we got the 60-60, it took 2 years of writing letters. It was all on a handshake. There was nothing in writing, but the town got behind us. I think it's important that you know that there are volunteers throughout Canada too. And when I think back to the people in Toronto and in Montreal and Joliet and so many places in Canada who've helped with this engine, I'd be very remiss if I didn't mention them too, because it's not me that's made the 60-60 live forever. It's the people of Canada, but in particular Jasper, but certainly a close second to a lot of our fellow Canadians.
It's a real sense of spirit there and faith that, you know, we're doing something. We're not just resting on our laurels. We're contributing. There's a very strong presence of volunteers here, and the community stands behind projects and people in this community, and it was hard not to be involved. It gives something back to me. It gives me a real sense of joy from my heart to know that this is I'm not just throwing money at a problem, I'm giving of myself. It is leadership by example. If other people see that even though you're you know, a family man and have your own businesses and clearly that you're busy and there's a lot of things to do, that you make time for this, and that may encourage other people to get involved as well. And hey, we're very fortunate in this society, in the modern Western world, and there's a lot of places where people are not nearly as fortunate. And I think there needs to be a recognition that this little community is part of a much larger community, which is part of a global community. And those that have need to do for those that don't have. And hopefully others will see that, you know, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. If she can do it, I can do it.
We have an amazing base of volunteers in our community, and not only people volunteering with organizations, but people that are volunteering and helping others on their own. There's lots of different ways that people can volunteer. They don't have to have structured times that they just get involved with an organization or with a community of people that they would like to work with and spend time when they can with those people. It's amazing what you can do even in an hour in a week, spending an hour with long-term care residents or helping seniors or coaching hockey or helping in the schools. There's so many different areas that people can help in the community. There's just lots of opportunities. And it's amazing that when we do things or help others in our volunteer efforts from the heart, the rewards are amazing. I volunteer because I love my community, because I want to make it a better place, and I want to help where I can. I think I'd like to say we have so many outstanding people in this community that volunteer, that help because they care. It just makes it a wonderful community to raise children, to retire, to grow. So thank you to all the people that do volunteer in our community. You are an amazing benefit and you touch so many lives. Thank you. And I think by closing, I'd like to quote Mahatma Gandhi, I think says it really well. And he says, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Happy International Year of the Volunteer. And that's a cut.